It started like one of those slow burn mornings, where the air feels just a little too still, like the city's holding its breath. In a shiny suburb just outside DC, where lawns are manicured like magazine covers, and even the squirrels seem to know their place, a black teen rode his bike through a neighborhood not designed with him in mind. He had earbuds in, backpack on, and that calm, focused look only teenagers on a mission have. But to Officers Mitchell and Dorsey, two white cops with too much time and not enough oversight, he didn't look like a kid heading to school. He looked out of place. Their cruiser pulled up behind him like a predator tailing its prey, siren chirping just once like a warning shot. The teen, let's call him Jameer, paused, one AirPod dangling, eyes flicking back as they told him to stop. For what? He asked. Not loud, not rude, just firm like he'd been taught to be. That three-word question was the match. The officers exchanged a look, the one that says he's about to learn something. In less than a minute, it escalated. Mitchell yanked Jameer's bike from under him. Dorsey spun him around like a damn demo dummy, and the next thing anyone knew, Jameer's face was on the pavement. His hands were behind his back, his voice calm. I didn't do anything. It was all caught on someone's phone from across the street. Because there's always a phone now. You could hear the woman filming whisper, "Oh, hell no, they're really doing this," like it wasn't happening in her zip code. Then came the twist no one saw coming. As the cuffs clicked, a black Tesla pulled up, sleek and humming, and out stepped a woman in a tailored navy pantsuit, hair coiled like authority, eyes like steel. She didn't yell, didn't run. She just stood there and said, "Officers, release that boy." Mitchell scoffed. Dorsey didn't even turn until she added, "He's my nephew." That got their attention. "Ma'am, step back," Mitchell started, but she didn't. "I'm also Judge Aria Langston of the DC Circuit Court," she added, voice slicing the air in two. Everything slowed. Dorsey blinked. Mitchell's face twisted like he'd swallowed a nail. The woman filming gasped, "Oh my God, I know her!" And just like that, the power dynamic flipped on its damn head. Aria pulled her phone out, dialed a number, said only 3 words. "It's happening again." Then she filmed them too. Mitchell tried to explain. "He didn't stop when we asked." Aria didn't even blink. "You had no probable cause," she said. "You had a profile, not a reason." Behind her, Jameer slowly stood, wrists red, shaking. But his face had that look, half fury, half disbelief. Aria stepped between him and the cops. "This is not just misconduct," she said. "This is legacy rot, and it ends today." That was the moment the camera caught Mitchell lowering his hands, not in surrender, but in something worse, fear. Because when the judge shows up before the lawyers do, the game changes. That day, Jameer didn't get pushed into a system. That day, the system got dragged into the light, and every click of the camera was a crack in the armor these officers thought would protect them forever. The fluorescent lights in the precinct lobby buzzed like they were nervous too. Jameer, real name, Malik Thorne, sat stiff in a plastic chair that smelled like dried sweat and bad policy. His wrists were still sore from the cuffs, but he didn't rub them, just stared dead ahead while the officer behind the desk clicked too loudly on a computer that hadn't been updated since Obama's first term. "Name?" the desk sergeant barked. Malik licked his lips, jaw set like stone. Malik Thorne." Click, pause. "Thorne," the officer repeated, skeptical, already half smirking like, "Sure, kid." "Yeah," Malik said, with an E. Another click, this time slower. Somewhere down the hallway, a microwave beeped, and a fax machine choked on its own paper. The sergeant leaned back in his chair and said to no one in particular, "Another one thinking a fancy name's gonna get him out of a write-up." But then the mood shifted, real fast. A younger officer named Ruiz, newer, sharper, less dead inside, looked up from his terminal. His face drained like someone had pulled the plug on his blood supply. "Wait. Malik Thorne?" he asked, standing a little straighter. "As in, U.S. Attorney General Evelyn Thorne?" The desk sergeant's laugh caught mid-chest. "Ain't no way," he started, but Ruiz cut him off. "You better check your system again, and you better do it carefully." The room went quiet, the kind of quiet where even the water cooler sounds guilty. The desk sergeant squinted at the screen, fingers now typing more, like a man defusing a bomb. Then boom, there it was. Photo, DOB, Federal Contact Flag. "Jesus Christ," the sergeant muttered under his breath, now sweating through his shirt like it was a lie detector test. "Why the hell didn't anyone check his ID at the scene?" Ruiz didn't answer. He already had his phone out, stepping into the hallway, voice low but urgent. Someone else in the room whispered, "We're so screwed." Within 10 minutes, the precinct's front doors slammed open. 2 unmarked SUVs pulled up like they were sent by the wrath of God herself. A black woman in heels, sharper than judgment, stepped out. Coat still buttoned, eyes locked forward like a missile. Evelyn Thorne did not walk, she advanced. "Where is my son?" she asked, not yelling, not begging, just demanding, like a storm that had read the Constitution and found its teeth. Officers scrambled. Some stood, some sank. The desk sergeant tried to stand, but ended up looking like he needed a bathroom more than a lawyer. Evelyn's eyes found Malik instantly. He stood the second he saw her, not with fear, not with relief, just with that quiet strength she raised him on. She didn't touch him yet. She turned to the officers first. "Which one of you arrested him?" she asked flatly. Nobody spoke, not at first. Then Officer Dorsey stepped forward, trying to play it cool. "Ma'am, he was biking suspiciously." "You arrested a child for riding a bicycle?" she snapped. No warrant, no cause, no ID check, no call to guardians, just vibes. Dorsey tried again. "We had reason to suspect what you had," she said, voice rising just enough to silence the room. Was a prejudice problem wrapped in a badge. Then she turned to Ruiz. What's your name?" "Officer Ruiz, ma'am." "You're the one who recognized him?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good. Stay employed. Everyone else in this room, start writing statements. You're going to need them." Malik finally stepped forward. She looked him over, saw the red on his wrists, saw how he didn't flinch. She softened only for him. "You good?" "Yeah," he said. "They didn't break anything." Evelyn glanced around one last time. "Yet." She turned on her heel, took his hand, and led him out, just as a camera crew from a local station pulled up outside. And back inside, that precinct was no longer a workplace. It was a crime scene. A ticking clock. A career-ending powder keg about to make the 6 o'clock news. And somewhere in the back of the room, someone whispered what they were all thinking. "We didn't just mess up, we messed with the wrong family." The photo hit her inbox at 6:07 a.m. A grainy precinct mugshot with bad lighting and worse implications. Malik's face stared back at her. Not broken, not bruised, but hardened in a way no teenager should be. Evelyn Thorne didn't scream, didn't sob, didn't even blink. She just stared at the screen like it had insulted her personally. Then, with a calm only dangerous women know how to weaponize, she reached for her phone. Her first call was to the Deputy Director of Internal Affairs. "Clear your morning." Click. Second call, FBI Field Operations. "I want a team at that precinct before sunrise." Click. Third, her press liaison. "Draft a statement. Civil rights violation, minor detained without cause, flagrant abuse of power." You know the tone, controlled fury. Fourth, her husband's old law partner. "Get ready to sue the city of DC for a number I haven't even thought of yet." Fifth, the mayor. "Don't call me. You'll hear what I think when I step up to the podium." By the sixth call, her office was glowing like a reactor core. Staffers arrived to find their boss already dressed, already moving, already rewriting the day's agenda with nothing but fury and purpose. "What happened?" one whispered. "They arrested her son," came the reply. And like that, the entire Justice Department started shaking in its polished Oxfords. By the seventh call, Evelyn was pacing, heels clicking like a metronome of war. She pulled up body cam archives, arrest logs, officer reviews. She found a pattern in less than 5 minutes. The same officers, Mitchell and Dorsey, already had multiple civilian complaints on record. One had been settled quietly. One had vanished entirely. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. No one disappears complaints on her watch. Call 8 went to the Attorney General's Chief of Security. "Double detail for my son and my sister. And I want facial recognition on anyone who so much as breathes near his school." Call 9, her oldest friend at CNN. "This story's about to explode. Do it right, or I go to your competitor." Final call, straight to the White House. "He was biking, that's all it took." A pause. "This isn't just about my son. It's about every black kid with a backpack and no buffer. I'm not asking for backup. I'm telling you I'm lighting this fuse." Then, and only then, Evelyn sat down. She opened her inbox again, stared at Malik's photo, and whispered to herself, "Not my baby, not today, not ever." Across the city, news stations scrambled. Reporters cleared their segments. Phones buzzed with the kind of panic that says, "We messed up way too loud this time." And in the DC Metro Police HQ, people started scrubbing their files before the storm hit. Because they all knew what Evelyn Thorne was capable of. Not just as the U.S. Attorney General, not just as the most powerful black woman in Washington, but as a mother. The kind who doesn't raise her voice. She raises the ground you stand on. And when she says, "No one touches my son," and walks away, it isn't a threat. It's a goddamn prophecy. It started as a blurry clip posted by an anonymous source to a no-name subreddit with 9 followers and bad grammar. But within an hour, it was everywhere. The body cam footage of Malik's arrest burned through the internet like gasoline on a match. No edits, no music, just raw, ugly truth. The video opened with Malik biking peacefully down a residential street. Earbuds in, backpack bouncing. The cruiser pulled up, lights off, quiet like a predator. "Hey, you! Stop right there!" barked a voice off camera. Malik slowed, confused. "What for?" he asked, steady. Not loud, not hostile, just human. Then came the shove. Hard, unjustified. His bike clattered to the pavement, and before he could even process what was happening, 2 grown men had him face down on the concrete. "You're gonna act like a smart-ass punk. You're gonna get treated like one officer growled. The other grunted. "These kids never learn till it's on record." Malik didn't resist. Just breathed. Just endured. And now, it was on record. The slap of flesh against pavement, the cuffs. The way one officer said, "You fit the description," without ever saying what the description was. It was all there, crystal clear. And by noon, the clip was on every platform that allowed video, and a few that usually didn't. TikTok had it in 20 parts. Twitter renamed itself the Department of Rage. Even Facebook aunties who normally posted church memes were resharing it with fire emojis and "not my baby" captions. The public didn't need Evelyn to say a word, because the footage was the word. A wave of outrage cracked across the country, from teens on live streams to lawyers on panel shows. Justice for Malik trended within 2 hours. News outlets tried to use calm words like unsettling and concerning. Black Twitter said, "Nah, call it what it is. Assault." Protesters gathered in front of the precinct with signs that read, "Biking while black, smartass and proud, and Evelyn's watching." And she was. In her office, behind double-locked glass, Evelyn played the video only once. Her aides didn't speak. Her legal team just stood there, waiting. When it ended, she said nothing. She didn't have to, because the world had just watched the ugliest part of Justice Unmasked, and it didn't blink. Meanwhile, in the precinct where Malik had been dragged like a criminal, panic took root. The officer, who called him a smart-ass punk, was suddenly on administrative leave pending investigation. His partner had lawyered up before his shift even started. Internal Affairs kicked down their own door just to get ahead of the press. But the damage was already done. Kids were reposting the clip with their own arrest stories. Parents were going live on Facebook, naming every officer who ever cuffed their sons for loitering. Schools were canceling resource officer contracts. A mural of Malik had already appeared on a brick wall downtown, painted overnight like a battle cry. Back in her office, Evelyn finally stood. "Draft the federal civil rights complaint," she said. "By tonight." Someone asked, "Do you want to hold a press conference?" She shook her head. No, she didn't need a podium. She had the people. Because when a mother goes quiet, but the footage speaks for her, you've already lost. You'd think after the whole internet caught them in 4K, they'd back off, maybe apologize, maybe blink. But nope, these dudes went full Titanic, steering straight into the iceberg like it owed them rent. Instead of accountability, the two officers, Mitchell and Dorsey, lawyered up like their pensions depended on denial, which they probably did. Their official statement dropped at 8:46 a.m. and hit social media like wet trash fire. The individual in question displayed non-compliance and was therefore detained using department-approved restraint procedures. Translation: he didn't kiss our boots fast enough, so we threw him on the pavement. And if that wasn't enough, their union backed it hard, talking about public hysteria and rushed judgment. But the real kicker came that evening on national television, when their captain, one Ronald A. Dwyer, with his hairline retreating like his morals, sat down on Good Morning America and doubled down like he had something holy to protect. He didn't identify himself, Dwyer said, dead serious. "We treat all citizens equally until we know more." The officers followed procedure. The clip hit Twitter before the segment even finished airing. He didn't identify himself. People lost it. Like Malik was supposed to hand over a resume on the sidewalk. Like his bloodline was the issue, not the broken system that put boots on his neck. People posted side-by-side screenshots, Malik on the ground and Dwyer in the studio, smug as hell. Hashtags popped up instantly. Hashtag he didn't identify him, hashtag badge before brain, Mash Ronald gotta go. And the memes, savage. One showed Malik holding up a birth certificate mid-arrest with the caption, "Sorry, officer, let me fax my identity first." Another had Dwyer in a door costume. "Can you say qualified immunity?" Meanwhile, Malik said nothing. No interviews, no TikToks, just vibes. The silence, louder than any press tour. Evelyn wasn't silent, though. She didn't speak in sound bites. She filed motions, subpoenas. Civil rights violations stacked like Jenga bricks, ready to topple careers. By noon, Dwyer's office was flooded with calls. Sponsors pulled out from the precinct's annual gala. A local college canceled his speaking event. CNN dropped a segment titled, "Leadership or Liability? When Defending Goes Too Far." Back at the Justice Department, Evelyn reviewed her next move, like a general planning a siege. Her assistant slid her a folder. Copies of Mitchell and Dorsey's previous complaints, 8 in total, 3 involving minors, 2 misplaced reports, 1 internal warning from a former supervisor that read, "These 2 escalate unnecessarily, watch them." No one did, until now. "We file the civil suit Monday," Evelyn said. "Name the officers, the department, and the city." Her assistant nodded, already typing. "And make sure we request full discovery. I want access to their body cam archives. Text threads, disciplinary records, everything." Meanwhile, on the streets of DC, the protests didn't stop, they multiplied. Crowds gathered outside the studio, where Dwyer gave his interview, chanting, "No badge above the law," and "You can't gaslight video." Because here's the thing. When a system messes up, people can forgive. But when it lies about it, gets smug, doubles down, that's when folks get loud. That's when it's no longer just about one kid. It's about all the kids, all the times, all the names whispered and ignored. And while the officers hid behind lawyers and their captain fumbled his 15 minutes into a PR nightmare, Evelyn was building a legal nuke. And when it drops, no one's walking away untouched. She didn't roll up in a convoy, no press, no podium, no dramatic entrance music. Just a black car, a black coat, and black heels sharp enough to slice a man's pride. U.S. Attorney General Evelyn Thorne walked into the precinct like it was her damn house, and the building knew. Conversations froze mid-word. Phones stopped ringing. Even the coffee machine paused like it sensed what was about to go down. One officer nearly choked on a donut. Another whispered, "Oh my God, that's her." Because when Evelyn walks into a room, it doesn't matter how much power you think you have. You're a guest now. She didn't look left, didn't look right. She walked straight through the lobby like Moses, parting a sea of scared men in uniform. Her eyes locked on the front desk. Her voice, smooth, chilling. "I'm here for my son." The desk officer, a baby-faced sergeant who'd clearly drawn the short straw that morning, blinked too fast. I'm sorry, ma'am. Who?" Evelyn's stare could have boiled his blood. "Malik Thorne. You have him. I want him." The sergeant stammered. I'm gonna need you to wait while I check with—" "No!" Evelyn interrupted, calm, lethal. "You don't check with anyone. You walk. You get him. Now." But the sergeant held on to his last shred of protocol like it was a flotation device. "I'm afraid I can't allow access to detainees without approval from a superior." Evelyn didn't blink, didn't flinch. Instead, she reached into her coat and pulled out a manila folder like a magician about to end the show. She opened it, flashed it. A federal warrant, signed, sealed, firebomb ready. The bold header at the top read, "Order for immediate access to federally protected civilian under investigation." The station exploded. Not with noise, but with movement. Chairs scraped, radios chirped. Someone literally dropped a stapler. Officers started scattering like mice in a kitchen with the lights turned on. Evelyn just stood there, motionless, letting the paper do the talking. "Where is my son?" she asked again, slower now, like a storm giving the wind a warning. A lieutenant jogged out of the hallway, sweat already glistening. "Madam Attorney General, there's been a misunderstanding, I assure you." "There's been many misunderstandings," she said. "Today isn't one of them. Today, you're going to open that door. Bring me my child and pray, that's all I'm asking for." The man swallowed his pride, and a chunk of fear, and disappeared down the hallway. 3 minutes later, Malik walked out, still in custody, still in the same hoodie. But when he saw her, he straightened. Not because he was scared, because he knew she wasn't. Evelyn crossed the room, like gravity obeyed her. She checked his eyes, his wrists. Her jaw flexed, just once. "You okay?" she asked. "I am now," he said. She nodded once, then turned to the entire precinct like she was addressing a courtroom. "My name is Evelyn Thorne," she said. "U.S. Attorney General, you all knew that when you cuffed my son. What you didn't know was that I was coming. And I don't forget names." Then she turned on her heel, Malik beside her, and walked out without another word. The door closed behind her with a thud that felt like judgment. And inside that station, not a soul exhaled until the echo disappeared. The door creaked open like it knew the weight of the moment. Malik stepped out first. No cuffs, no escort, no fanfare. Just his hoodie pulled over his curls, and his mother walking beside him like a shadow that bites. The air outside felt heavier than when he went in. Same city, different world. A wall of cameras flashed like lightning without the thunder. Reporters packed the steps, mics raised like weapons. "Malik, are you okay? Do you feel safe now? What did they say to you inside?" He didn't answer right away. Not because he didn't want to, but because he didn't know how. The bruises weren't photogenic, no black eye, no busted lip, just deep, invisible cracks in trust and skin and childhood. The kind of hurt that echoes louder in the quiet. Evelyn touched his arm gently. "We can go." But Malik held still. His chest rose once, then again. He took a step toward the crowd, not to perform, but to say something. Only one thing. "I want this to mean something." That was it. 6 words. Quiet, steady, real. The press froze like it hadn't expected wisdom in a teenager's voice. A woman in the crowd, older, brown-skinned, maybe a mom, whispered, "He sounds like her." But someone else started clapping. Just one person, then a second. And suddenly the press stopped asking and just started listening. Evelyn didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Her son just did what she spent a lifetime doing, turning pain into purpose. They walked down the steps together. Every step a middle finger to the idea that silence is safer. Malik didn't flinch when the cameras followed. He didn't hide. He just held his head up. Not high, but level. Like he wasn't above anyone, but sure as hell wasn't below anyone either. Later that night, a clip of that moment hit 2.3 million views in 4 hours. Not because it was dramatic, not because it was viral, but because it was truth. A boy, bruised but unbowed, reminding a country what it looks like to survive something that should never have happened. People started sharing it with the caption, "I want this to mean something." It became a slogan, a movement. Not because Malik asked for it, but because he earned it. Back at home, Evelyn closed the door behind them, locked it, pulled off her heels like she was shedding armor. Malik sat on the couch, arms resting on his knees, eyes a little far off. "You didn't have to say anything," she told him, voice softer than it had been in days. "I wanted to," he replied. "Why?" "Because if they're gonna know my name," he said, "I want them to know it right." Evelyn nodded, pride and heartbreak wrestling in her chest. She sat beside him, hand on his back. They didn't talk much after that, just breathed, just existed. Because sometimes surviving is the statement, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is just 6 words wrapped in your own damn name. The podium was sleek. The seal of the Department of Justice gleamed behind her like a warning. Cameras packed the room. Reporters buzzed like flies on a fuse. But Evelyn Thorne, she stood in front of them like gravity made her, not God. Her blouse was crisp, her posture perfect, and her tone, controlled chaos. "We are no longer discussing an isolated incident," she began, voice smooth but laced with fire. "We are addressing a pattern, a structure, a rot." Flashbulbs popped. Someone coughed. She didn't flinch. "This morning, under authority granted to the Attorney General by executive emergency powers, I am authorizing a full-scale federal civil rights investigation into the D.C. Metro Police Department," she said. "Effective immediately." Boom. The words dropped like a bomb made of paperwork and rage. "This will not be limited to the arrest of my son, Malik Thorne," she continued. "We will audit a decade of conduct, complaints, cover-ups, and corruption. Every officer, every precinct, every report that went missing, every case that was dismissed under suspicious circumstances." The room inhaled, like it forgot how to breathe. "This includes supervisors, union leaders, internal affairs, civilian review boards, anyone who turned their face from injustice and said nothing." That was the moment a chill ran across every desk in D.C. because she wasn't just looking at the officers. She was coming for the people who protected them. One reporter raised a trembling hand. "Madam Attorney General, isn't there a conflict of interest here?" Considering your son, Evelyn raised a hand, calm, cold. If you think this is personal, you're right. Gasps, murmurs, and then silence. It is personal. Because civil rights violations should be personal. Because every child thrown on a sidewalk without reason could have been mine. And for many families they were. I'm doing what every official with power should have done years ago, drawing a line. She paused, scanning the room like a general about to announce a war. This department is not just under investigation, she said. It is under accountability. The phrase went viral in seconds. Hatched under accountability was on banners by lunchtime. Inside the department being investigated, panic. Phones buzzed. Lawyers drafted statements. Officers scrubbed their socials like guilt could be deleted. High-ranking officials called in favors that no longer held weight. City Hall started sweating through its suit. Because when the Attorney General stops playing defense and starts flipping tables, it's not a scandal, it's a shift. Evelyn stepped down from the podium. No questions, no clarifications. Just a trail of fire behind her heels. Across the city, news anchors broke protocol to go live. Civil rights attorneys started pulling old cases from file cabinets. Victims who'd been told they were imagining things started coming forward with new strength in their voices. And in the middle of it all, Evelyn walked through the DOJ like the air was hers to command. She didn't smile. She didn't celebrate, because this wasn't revenge, this was renovation. And the blueprint? Justice, with zero shortcuts. They thought it would be paperwork, a few interviews, a slap on the wrist wrapped in policy speak. But Internal Affairs didn't show up with clipboards. They came in with a war plan. Week 1, they pulled body cam footage. Week 2, they pulled officers off duty. Week 3, they pulled the entire damn rug. What started with Malik's arrest cracked open a vault nobody wanted opened. And inside, it wasn't just bad behavior. It was intentional sabotage of the system they were sworn to uphold. Falsified reports stacked like firewood. Evidence lockers missing key items, mysteriously lost or misfiled. Complaints marked unfounded, with no investigation ever started. And the pattern? Clear as a bloody fingerprint. The majority of buried reports involved black teens, mostly boys, some as young as 12, same neighborhoods, same officers, same excuse, non-compliance. And every time someone tried to speak up, it was handled, silenced, ghosted in bureaucracy. One officer, retired, thinking he was safe, got hit with a subpoena and cracked like cheap glass. They told us what to write, he admitted, told us who to watch. We knew who'd get pulled over before the shift even started. IA agents sat in silence as the names rolled out like a confession. Mitchell, Dorsey, and 10 more. Some still active, some promoted, some decorated. Internal Affairs uncovered a training initiative, unofficially referred to by officers as the Cage Rule. Target high-risk areas, profile the kids who might cause trouble. Write the report after. Make the story fit the outcome. One document dated back 6 years. Suspect appeared hostile. Written before the body cam even activated. One folder had notes in pen. Keep this off the books. Union will cover. And suddenly, Malik wasn't a headline anymore. He was a mirror. Because he wasn't the first. He was just the first with a mother who could burn cities with a signature. By the end of the month, IA had reopened 47 cases. 12 involved excessive force. 9 had video evidence that had been locked in non-priority storage. 4 involved medical injuries reported but never followed up. And 2 were fatal. The city started shaking. Protests grew louder. Former officers started calling in anonymously, tipping off where to look next. One sent an envelope, no return address. Inside, a photograph of a 14-year-old boy in a hospital gown, and a note. He never got justice. Do better. And Evelyn? She didn't gloat, she didn't tweet, she pushed harder. Don't stop, she told the investigators. This is the part where they beg you to slow down. That means you're close. Meanwhile, DC's police union scrambled to keep the dam from bursting. They called it a smear campaign. IA called it evidence. They begged the mayor to intervene. The mayor called Evelyn. She didn't even pick up. Back at Internal Affairs HQ, Agent Juno Klein stared at a map on the wall. Every pin marked a complaint. Red pins were buried cases. The map was bleeding. She turned to her team. "Get ready for federal charges," she said. "This wasn't negligence. This was a system built to break." And somewhere across town, Malik sat in his room, rereading the first statement he ever gave. I didn't do anything. He didn't have to. The truth had finally done something for him. At first, they kept their mouths shut, tight lips and tighter alibis. They rolled their eyes at the press, laughed in the locker room, said things like, "They'll forget by next week." But then came the subpoenas. Then came the footage. Then came the realization. This time, nobody's cleaning it up. By week 4 of the investigation, the Whisper network inside the DC precincts had turned into full-blown panic. Officers started calling in sick. Some took early retirement. One moved states overnight. But the real crack in the wall came from the bottom. It wasn't the captains. It was the rookies. The overlooked. The underpaid. The ones who'd been told, "Just shut up and watch how it's done." One of them, Officer Jalen Knox, 26, 2 years on the job, walked into IA with a flash drive and a twitch in his eye. "I'm not going down for this," he said. "I didn't sign up to be part of a gang." What was on that flash drive? Screenshots, private group chats, messages between officers on department-issued phones. And it was bad. Racist jokes sent mid-patrol, photos of teens being arrested with captions like, "Future felon starter pack." One message read, "Make sure this one's scared. He's got that activist mama vibe." But the worst? A selfie. Officer Dorsey, holding a thin gold chain between 2 fingers, grinning like he'd just won a prize. Caption, "Souvenir, dumbass, left it in his hoodie." It was Malik's. That photo hit Internal Affairs like a Molotov cocktail. No context could fix it. No PR team could spin it. It was proof, not just of theft, but of intent. That these kids weren't suspects to them. They were trophies. After Knox came forward, the silence broke. One by one, more officers started flipping. Some were scared, some were guilty. Some were just done. A female officer handed over a folder of incident reports she'd kept hidden. "They told me to change the wording," she said. "Said if I didn't, I wasn't a team player." Another brought in body cam backups he'd stored privately. "I knew they'd wipe the files. I just couldn't let it slide." And the more they talked, the clearer the picture became. This wasn't bad apples. This was the whole damn orchard rotting from the inside. There were patterns of arrests before monthly quota reports. Private bets placed on who could get the most creative charge. One precinct ran an unofficial nickname list for repeat youth offenders. Names like Lil Hoodie, Discount Tupac, and Don't Shoot 3. It was cruel, dehumanizing, systemic. And for every officer who came forward, Internal Affairs traced more. More names, more messages, more cover-ups. Evelyn reviewed the growing list every morning. Her team stopped calling it a probe. They started calling it an exposure. "We've hit a confirmed incidents," one investigator told her. "And this is just from the people willing to talk." "How many more are scared?" she asked. "Too many." But the tide had turned. The blue wall, cracking, the power dynamic shifting, and the people who once mocked Malik's name, they were now begging not to hear it in a deposition. Because once one cop starts talking, the rest don't stay silent long. They waited until things got too real, until body cams were dropping receipts and officers were flipping faster than pancakes at a church fundraiser. That's when the police union finally snapped. On a rainy Thursday, just after noon, the union filed a civil suit against Evelyn Thorne. Their accusation? Abuse of power, personal retaliation, targeted persecution of law enforcement. Cue the headlines. DOJ, weaponized against local cops. Attorney General oversteps boundaries in son's arrest. Fallout, cable news spun faster than a panic room door. And the talking heads ate it up. But Evelyn, she didn't even blink. While the suit made its way into the press, something darker brewed in the shadows. Leaked emails, first found by a whistleblower inside a media firm, revealed the union had been coordinating with several right-wing media outlets for weeks. Subject lines like, "Time to hit back. Focus on optics. Get personal." Their plan, smear Evelyn, discredit the investigation, bury the truth in chaos. One memo even listed talking points. Portray her as emotionally compromised. Lean into elitism. Harvard, D.C., Ivy League arrogance. Highlight her bias against police. Paint her as unhinged mother, not objective official. Then it got petty. 2 nights later, a primetime segment aired on a conservative network. Host in a red tie, face stiff with fake concern. Joining us now is someone who knew Evelyn before she had power. Her former college roommate, Janice McCall. Janice hadn't been heard from in decades. Now she was suddenly on national television, holding a glass of wine, talking about how Evelyn used to have a temper, how she didn't always respect authority, how she once skipped class to attend a protest. The host leaned in, all fake sympathy. "So, this behavior, you're saying it tracks?" Janice nodded, smug. "It's not surprising. She's always had a chip on her shoulder." Cue dramatic music. Cue outraged headlines. Cue Twitter trolls in attack mode. By the next morning, Matt Thorne out was trending. Dozens of spammy witnesses suddenly remembered how Evelyn once raised her voice. One anonymous tip accused her of radical associations. A photo leaked from her college days, her on a protest line, fist raised. They were doing exactly what corrupt systems always do. Make the problem about the person, not the cops, not the chain of abuse, not the bruised kids or the missing evidence, but the woman who exposed it. Evelyn's team brought her the stack of clips, emails, transcripts, photos. She flipped through them slowly. Her fingers didn't shake. "Are we responding?" her press aide asked. "No. You sure?" "Let them talk," she said. "They're just proving the point. They can't defend what they did. So they're trying to erase who I am." That afternoon, she walked into a closed-door meeting with federal prosecutors and internal affairs. No cameras, no reporters, just files. Dozens. She dropped one on the table, flipped it open. "While they're interviewing my old roommate," she said coolly, "we'll be interviewing their entire damn command staff." Across the city, people started waking up. This wasn't just politics. It was war. And Evelyn, she did not come to win a PR battle. She came to take the whole machine apart. The park was packed, shoulder to shoulder, wall to wall, heart to heart. Signs waved in the breeze like they were tired of standing still. Justice for Malik. Protect Black youth. Silence is complicity. The mic sat center stage waiting. And then, he walked out. Malik didn't come dressed in some polished public image fit. Hoodie, jeans, Air Force Ones scuffed from the sidewalk. He didn't raise his arms, didn't hype the crowd. He just stood there. Still, hands in his pockets, chin up. The cheers rolled in like a wave. Thousands deep, all eyes locked on him. He let them finish. Then, he leaned into the mic. "My name is Malik Thorne." Silence. "I'm 17. I go to Roosevelt High. I like sneakers, comic books, and I suck at math, but I try anyway." A few chuckles, nods, a pause. 2 months ago, I was thrown on the pavement by 2 cops who didn't know my name, who didn't care where I was going or what I'd done because in their eyes, I didn't belong. Now the crowd was still, so still. But that wasn't the first time I felt it, he continued. It was just the first time it got caught on camera. Malik gripped the edge of the podium like it was the only thing keeping his feet on the ground. I grew up in a house with two worlds in it, he said. My mom, y'all know her as the Attorney General, but to me she's just Mom. She taught me how to stand up straight, how to speak clearly, how to know the law better than the people who try to twist it. He paused, swallowed. Eyes scanned the crowd. And my dad, before he passed, he was the one who told me, "You're going to have to be twice as good just to survive. Not to win, just to survive." A girl in the front wiped her eyes. A boy behind her filmed with shaking hands. So yeah, I had two worlds, he said. The one where I was protected by power, and the one where I was a target because of my skin. Both lived in my house, at my dinner table, in my mirror. The crowd didn't cheer. They couldn't. They were listening. Malik took a breath. I'm not here to be your symbol. I'm not your martyr. I'm just a kid who got caught in a system that doesn't ask questions until it's too late. And then, his voice dropped low. Final words. Simple, sharp. Justice doesn't have two faces. But too often, it only sees one. Boom. A beat of silence. Then the crowd erupted. Not just in applause, but in release. The kind of roar that comes when someone says the thing you've carried in your chest for years. Signs lifted. Voices shouted his name. People held each other like grief just turned into fire. Malik stepped back, didn't bow, didn't cry, just nodded once, and left the stage the same way he came in. Real, grounded, untouchable. And across the city, in offices and boardrooms, in squad cars and studio sets, those 6 final words started echoing like judgment. Justice doesn't have two faces, but too often it only sees one. It came in a plain manila envelope. No return address. No warning. Just the DOJ mailroom stamp and a sticky note that said, "You didn't get this from me." Inside, a flash drive, labeled evidence, buried complaints, DCPD internal. Evelyn didn't flinch, didn't speculate. She handed it to her cybersecurity chief without a word and watched the screen as it loaded. What popped up wasn't a list. It was a map of rot. Dozens of PDFs, each stamped confidential. Complaints filed and vanished. Badge numbers. Civilian names. Medical reports. Internal reviews marked no action recommended. Some were old. Years old, but others filed this year. And they all had one thing in common. They were missing from the official department database. Destroyed. Erased. Buried. Until now. One file read, "Use of force against minor suspect, Roosevelt High. Locker search incident, April 6th. The officer listed? Mitchell. The victim's name was blacked out. But Evelyn recognized the date. It was 5 days before Malik was arrested. Another showed a 14-year-old girl slammed into a cafeteria table. Suspect was being disruptive, it said. The footage? Never logged. The complaint? Signed and shredded by the officer's own captain. But it wasn't just cops. File number 43 hit Evelyn like a punch. Case suppression memo. ADA K. Wexley. Dismissed charges in exchange for departmental cooperation. Translation. The assistant district attorney made deals to protect dirty cops in exchange for political favor. Evelyn didn't hesitate. "Get me the U.S. Marshals," she said. Within the hour, warrants were signed. By 3 p.m., 3 officers, including Mitchell, and 1 ADA were in cuffs. No internal leave, no union shield. Arrested, booked, public. The city damn near exploded. News vans swarmed the courthouse like sharks that smelled blood. Protesters cheered in the street. Reporters screamed questions from behind barricades. But Evelyn didn't call a press conference. She didn't tweet. She just released one statement. Justice delayed is justice denied. Justice destroyed is a crime. We are prosecuting both. Inside the DOJ, The tension was electric. Staffers moved faster. Phones didn't stop ringing. One agent leaned into Evelyn's office and whispered, "This is it, ma'am. You cracked the firewall." She looked up. "No," she said. "They did." The leak confirmed what she'd suspected for months. There was a network. Not just a few bad actors, but a pipeline. Cops who abused. Lawyers who covered. Officials who looked away. A whole machine designed to chew up the voiceless and spit out a clean record. But the machine forgot one thing. You can't erase the truth forever. That night, Evelyn walked through the DOJ halls alone, folder in hand. The lights above her hummed. The city outside buzzed. And still, she didn't slow down. She called Internal Affairs. "Keep going," she said. She called Civil Rights. "Double-check every closed case tied to those 4 names." And then, she called Malik. "It's started," she told him. He didn't ask what. He just said, "Good." Because some families hand down silverware, others hand down revolutions. They brought him in through the back. No cuffs. Not yet. But surrounded. Captain Ronald A. Dwyer, the same man who'd gone on TV, grinned through denials, and called Malik just another suspect. Now? He sat in a steel chair under fluorescent lights that made sweat bead on his forehead like guilt. He looked smaller in person. Not physically, just diminished. And across from him sat Evelyn Thorne. No badge on the table, no tape recorder. Just her, in a tailored blazer and eyes like judgment dressed in calm. "You wanted to speak," she said. Dwyer cleared his throat twice. "I've got information," he said, voice low, almost careful. "About the union. About who signed off on those complaint purges. You're going after the wrong names. There's people higher up." Evelyn didn't nod, didn't blink. He leaned forward. "I'm saying I can help you, if we work something out." And that's when the silence got loud. She sat back, folded her hands. "Captain Dwyer," she said, "let me ask you something." He raised an eyebrow. "When you stood in front of the press, when you defended the arrest of a child, did you feel powerful?" He shifted in his seat. When you called him a liar, when you said he didn't identify himself, when you mocked a teenager for surviving what you built, did you think you were untouchable?" Now he looked down, just for a second. "You're not here to make deals," she said flatly. "You're here to face what you helped build." He opened his mouth again, but she cut him off. "No, you don't get to sell your soul twice. Not to them, and then to me." Outside the interrogation room, federal agents watched through mirrored glass. One whispered, "She's not letting him wiggle out." Another replied, "Good." He was the root. Evelyn leaned in, her voice sharper now. "You protected those officers. I followed orders. No, you gave them." "I didn't. You signed off on their promotions. You buried complaints. You called victims unreliable before you even read the reports. And now that the walls are closing in, you want immunity?" Dwyer's jaw clenched. "I've got names," he said. "I can show you where the funding came from, the payouts, the private security firms involved in covering body cam trails." Evelyn stared him down like his words meant nothing. Because to her, they didn't. Not coming from him. Not now. "You had years to speak," she said. "You chose silence. Now you get consequence." He looked around like someone else might save him, but no one moved. The walls didn't bend. The table didn't open up to swallow him. Just reality. Finally, catching up, Evelyn stood slowly. "I am sure the prosecutors will listen to what you have to say," she added. "But understand something, I'm not buying what you're selling. Not for a second." He sat there, breathing heavier now, rage creeping in where arrogance used to live. "And Evelyn?" She walked out without looking back. Outside the room, her aide handed her a folder. Ready for the press statement? Soon, she replied. I've got a few more names to add. Because Captain Dwyer wasn't the last. He was just the latest. And the system he helped protect was finally being dismantled, one coward at a time. The first grand jury indictment hit at 8:03 a.m. By noon, there were 12, 3 officers, 2 assistant DAs, 1 internal affairs supervisor, 4 city contractors, 2 command staffers, including one who once called Evelyn a liability in heels. Now, he was booked without bail. The headlines came fast and brutal. Corruption network in DC PD exposed. Federal indictments rock City Hall. Attorney General Thorne cracks down on police shield culture. The mayor, who'd once smiled tight beside Evelyn at ribbon cuttings, suddenly couldn't find her phone number. He went live that afternoon with an official statement. We believe in transparency and accountability. The city is fully cooperating with federal authorities. We commend the DOJ for their dedication to justice. Translation: please don't drag me down with them. The DOJ responded with something louder. A formal appointment of a federal monitor to oversee the DC Police Department. For the first time in city history, outside eyes would be inside everything. Recruitment, complaint handling, officer discipline, use of force policies. No more internal matters. No more pending reviews. And in the middle of it all, Evelyn scheduled one more press conference. This one was different. It wasn't in the Justice Department. It wasn't in some wood-paneled room full of suits. It was in the same park where Malik spoke weeks earlier, where his voice cracked the silence. And this time, he stood beside her. He didn't speak first. She did. I've been called a lot of things in the last few months, Evelyn said into the sea of microphones. Activist, overreaching, angry, politically motivated. But today, I'm just someone who got to look her son in the eye and say, "You were heard." The crowd clapped, not loud but long. Let me be clear, she continued. This isn't justice because I'm the Attorney General. It's justice because he's my son, and he finally got what every kid should. Protection, truth, a system that doesn't treat you like a threat just because of your hoodie. Malik stood steady beside her, hands folded, eyes sharp, not hiding, not shrinking, just present. And yes, Evelyn added, we're going to keep going, because the system didn't crack on its own. It cracked because people pushed. Whistleblowers came forward. Journalists refused to look away. Officers spoke up. Survivors stepped out of the shadows. She paused. Looked around at the faces. Young, old, brown, black, tired, hopeful. Don't thank me, she said. Follow me. Keep pushing. Keep asking where the buried files are. Keep asking why the same names pop up in the same stories. Because justice isn't a speech. It's pressure. Applied. Every damn day. Malik finally leaned toward the mic. Just once. Thank you for listening, he said. Now go listen to someone who didn't get the mic. The crowd roared. Signs lifted. Tears streamed. Even the press forgot their next questions. And somewhere, in offices once protected by silence, powerful people started planning their exits. Because this wasn't just a moment. It was a movement. And Evelyn? She didn't end the press conference with a wave. She ended it by stepping off the stage, into the crowd, into the people, into the truth she helped bring back to life.